Hey there, welcome back to Sea Power, and let's have a look at this new beta branch update that was released yesterday, being November 13th. Note, it's a beta branch, so if you want to play this, you're gonna have to go over to the beta branch, which might mean a whole lot of mods don't want to play that nice. So what's the big selling point of this one? Well, a major overhaul of flight deck operations. Because normally you just say, hey, I want to launch 2 F-14s, air-to-air loadout, off you go. It's not quite going to be that easy anymore, because we now have individual loadout preparation times as well as cooldown servicing times. So let's say an aircraft is going on a mission, you need to prep it, and after it has come back from a mission, you need to, well, unprep it or ready it for the next sortie. Over here we have the Eisenhower, which is going to serve as my test platform, and immediately over here on the flight deck you can already see some different parts of the menu. For starters, we have deck utilization. This is a new part, because aircraft now have a limited amount of deck space, which is where you can have your prepped aircraft waiting for launch. Right now, I have an SH-3 ready to launch, but it's not actually being launched. So there's a difference now between just launch, which is the button that you used to have, and ready. So you can have a couple of aircraft ready depending on your needs. Let's say I want to have a couple of F-14s, intercept loadout, I'm going to say 2 of those ready. Now you can see that we have deck utilization 3 out of 44. So there is going to be a bit of a bit of deck space being used up by these things. It's going to take them 5.5 minutes, or rather 6 minutes, to prepare. You're also assigning ground crew, deck crew. So we have now crew utilization 2 out of 12. Of course, I don't really take this as 2 people are working on this, but rather 2 ground crew. This is going to also mean that you might have 44 deck space available, but that doesn't actually mean you'll be able to use all of it. Because yes, you might want to immediately launch 40 aircraft off the deck, that'd be great. However, your crew utilization cannot keep up with that. So you're going to have to plan. You're going to have to plan quite well. Now, deck space deck park spaces limit the total amount of aircraft that can be waiting for launch at any given time. And if the deck park space is full, you must either launch or abort. So you can say, hey, I don't actually want to do this. And we also now have a new button, prioritize. So let's say I want to have, 9 additional aircraft going on an intercept. I'm going to say ready. Right now, I have plenty of crew utilization, but what if I also send up a full load of A6s ready? They're gonna say, well, that's gonna take us 2 hours. Holy shit. It's probably because there's only 1 crew waiting on it, working on it. Your Sea Power missions are about to get a whole lot longer. Unless you prioritize this, in which case it only takes about 12 minutes, because all the ground crew that are available are working on it. I think we still have... oh yeah, it's 10 aircraft. So 1 ground crew can work on 1 aircraft, and then it still takes them about 12 minutes. This is going to have tactical implications as well. If you see an enemy aircraft strike approach, well, you might be able to launch a couple of fighters, but throwing your whole air wing up as quickly as you might normally do that, that's the thing of the past. You just don't do that anymore, which is going to be a problem. Because you're going to have a much better picture of what's going to happen when, and make sure that you're ready for any eventuality. So you might have a couple of F-14s on that ready space on the deck utilization. But you're not actually launching them. You're just telling them, hey, stand by, and when I need you to go, you're going to be ready instantly. Now let's see if this thing is actually going to launch instantly, because I'm now prepping to launch it. It's going to launch point, Griffin 1. Griffin 1 is probably on... yeah, there we go. It's in the hangar. So the deck space, I'm assuming this is actually the deck space as advertised, as opposed to the flight deck space, because unless you're using some mods, all of these things are just kind of stuck onto the deck. They're just models. They don't actually do anything. They don't serve as aircraft, so it's not like I have an E-2C standing by immediate for launch. But this does mean that at the moment I can launch an aircraft that is prepped and ready to go. And that does not take up crew utilization. So in this case you could actually read crew utilization more as a prep crew like the crew working in the hangar below decks to ready an aircraft. Give it fuel, give it the armaments that you require it to have. That is what this crew utilization does. Because it doesn't seem to be the case that I have, for example, 12 deck crew right now. Rather, well, I'm going to say hangar crew because it makes more sense to me. We have 12 hangar crew, 10 of those crews are working on the A6 strike, and then we have 2 crews working on the F-14s. But what if there is a strike incoming? I don't want to do a strike myself, but I have another strike. I'm going to prioritize that. There will still be a few people waiting to, or working on the ground strike, or rather the in-ship strike from the A6s, but now the F-14s have suddenly gotten priority. Of course, you're still limited by elevators. It's not like you can instantly start launching all of these birds. They won't spawn on the deck and be airborne in seconds. That too will take time. Now this is not the only thing, because we can also set a rally point. So once you have an aircraft carrier launching, you can set a rally point. And in order to do that, you can right click on the airbase or carrier and then go to flight deck and rally points. Flight deck, rally points. I can say we have an auto point, or we have different spots for helos. Altitude is going to be for helicopters this. I'm going to say for aircraft, I want to have it rally there. Which it doesn't want to do. Flight deck. Yes. Okay, so now we have a point. Unfortunately, it's not actually clear on the map where that point is. But we do have a point. And this is especially going to be handy if, for example, you want to have a launch point for your aircraft. And you want to immediately have them go to 20,000 feet. Or 30,000 feet, for example. And the same can be said for doing a strike. So let's say you're planning to do a strike on, oh, I don't know, this spot here. You can say, I'm going to set my rally point. So flight deck, aircraft rally point is going to be there. That's right clicking. And then they're all going to go there. But I don't really want them to fly at 20,000 feet. Oh, sorry, this is 2,000 feet. I don't want to actually fly them at 2,000 feet. I want to fly them at 50 feet because otherwise they might get detected. And now they're just gonna go there. This definitely makes things easier, because normally you'd have to shuffle all of your aircraft around in order to finally get them to a certain position. You'd have to sort of pick them up at the carrier and say, hey, I want you to go to this altitude, I want you to do this thing, and I want you to go here. And then you could start assembling your flights and assembling your strikes. That's no longer needed, so that is rather convenient. Now, the same can be said for the VTOLs. You can potentially see that already. Here we have a VTOL rally point and a helicopter rally point. A helicopter rally point from an aircraft carrier generally for this type isn't going to be that interesting, because I'm most likely going to be doing ASW. So, in this case, I don't really mind having to pick up my Griffin 1 over here and tell it to go drop sonobuoys, because, you know, it just works fine. As for the rest, because there is more in this patch, they now have a limited ordnance. I think this was already the case, but maybe they just did it different. Can we see that? Especially for advanced weaponry such as Phoenix and Harpoon missiles. I think we already had that. Because here we have the Phoenix. I can launch 40 flights of that, or I can launch 10 flights with the Phoenix. I simply don't have that much. And take note, there is a prep time. So we have an air-to-air long range, which is a prep time of 15 minutes. Then we have 15 minutes, and we have 30 minutes if you want to go air-to-air intercept. So if you have an incoming strike, you better have enough time. You better have enough time, or you're going to find yourself very much on the receiving end of potentially a couple of head-ship missiles. Ferry missions can apparently always be done, and I guess for strike missions it might be a little different. Early warning is always fine. Oh, I sent the whole A6 wing up, right. Yeah, so we got tons and tons of ordnance for strike long range. Seed missions are fine. Close air supports are fine. But the more expensive the weapon is, and you can generally see that on, for example, the panel here. You can say, hey, what does an AIM-54 cost? Well, an AIM-54 is going to cost you 1,108 ammo points. So, in this case, you might wonder, how do you resupply that? I don't think you do at the moment. But I know that they are working on a resupply mechanic, which is not going to be that important for a single mission. But for a campaign, hey, if your aircraft carrier battle group is operating out on, I don't know, the Atlantic, such as I'm right now, and you've been doing multiple missions such as ASW or maybe anti-ship strikes, you might want to resupply. So maybe you're going to have to send a convoy of resupply ships out towards the CVBG over here. That would definitely be a fun sort of sub-mission or sub-mechanic. It also says the mission editor has been updated to allow mission makers to configure prepped aircraft and allocate airbase and carrier ammunition stores. So in the editor you can also fix that. Which means that for some missions you might not have that much ammo available. Recently I was doing a mission and I just did not really have enough ammo. It was quite annoying, but well, such was the case. The missiles that I was using at the time were just very expensive and my airbase ran out of options. So if you are a scenario creator and you want to make sure that the player doesn't, you know, launch 15 strikes of Eagles or something, you can. And you can just limit the amount of ammo is available. There's also a flight deck timing setting in options. Let's have a look. We can have it either in realistic, casual, or arcade. And arcade mode actually disables the prep and cooldown time. So if you don't like that, it's going to take you a lot of time. I'm currently in casual. I'm going to switch it to realistic. I'm not sure if I'm going to like that. Yeah, this is definitely going to take a bunch of time, but I'm still prepping that. How long does an F-14 intercept take now? Still 30 minutes. Okay, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. What I want to know is what happens if I actually retrieve an aircraft. Because that will definitely take some time. At least, well, recovering the aircraft takes time, yes, but also retrieving the aircraft and then getting it ready to go again. So let's have Dakota 1 leave the formation and go back to base. Let's see how that's going to work. They're going to orbit a bit. It's fine. Take your time. Flight deck's busy as is. Take note how all the aircraft are immediately going off towards that objective that I set for them, which is not that marker there, but it is in the vicinity. Yeah, these guys are now orbiting the carrier, which is there. Fly around, fly around, fly around. Fly around a bit more. Come in and land. Alright, welcome back. Da-da-da-da-da, back in the hangar. Okay, so how long are you going to be out for? Whoa! 2 hours. 2 hours. Take note that I cannot assign deck crew to speed this up. This one F-14 is out for 2 hours. Whew. Your missions are going to be a lot longer if you put it to realistic. Holy shit. Your missions are going to take a lot longer. Because you're... Well, either you're going to have to take more time to launch the missions, or you'll have to make sure that you plan very, very, very carefully. Have the right aircraft up at the right time with the right loadout, or risk finding yourself without aircraft for a good long while. Now this is 2 hours in the realistic mode. If I go to casual, that drops down to only 25 minutes. So that's a heck of a change. For content creation purposes, I might keep it at casual. Otherwise, I'm just going to be sitting there waiting for hours in order to get the units to finally be ready again. I will probably do a mission with the realistic setting. I just don't know if it's going to be that fun or that sustainable. As for the rest, there are some improvements to the mission editor. Controls for all new flight deck mechanics are within the mission editor. Let's have a look then. Not that I use the mission editor that often, but there are many mod creators out there who might be interested. So let's see. Over here we have the flight deck. I can have the flight deck. I can have different units in the air group. I can have ammunition stores. I can say I want to have custom ammunition stores. So I can have, I don't know, this many out of that many. We can have the different air groups, and you can add or take away aircraft as you see fit. I'm not really sure what has really changed. You also have the ability to pre-plan aircraft prep, making aircraft availability immediately in the mission and for the player and or AI. Okay, so Let's say I want to already have a couple of F-14s available because we're going to do a mission where I need to have those ready. I'm going to say 2 or 4 are ready. Right. So this way I can immediately have them out and about. Or at least, no, it's not out and about, standing by. I can also launch them. But I don't think that actually does anything. No, actually it does. My bad, it does. They just kicked them out. So we have a group which is already on patrol. And then you can set these as altitude 20,000 feet, for example. So yeah, this is pretty straightforward. You can already have these things out and about, or on the flight deck, or just in the hangar as you see fit as a mission creator. There's also a new trigger for weather changes and reactivation of triggers. There's a new waypoint system for sonobuoy deployment, including the drop in line and sonobuoy depth, which is something that you could already do in single player, just in missions. Checkboxes to disable aircraft AI and trigger actions to enable or disable it. Now, airbase AI is a rather important thing because there are some changes and they're still working on a lot more, but the highlights are the AI aircraft will now try to engage targets based on priority versus chasing off after the first identified aircraft. And this is definitely something that I was struggling with a lot. Because let's say you had a mission and there were, I don't know, 10 aircraft available for targeting, but one is an airborne advanced early warning, so an AEW. Your aircraft are just going to go herp-a-derp-a-derp. I want to immediately go after that. So there could be, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 targets there, and there would be one airborne early warning, and my jet would go mine, 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 and ignore everything else. I hope that with this change, that's not going to be a factor anymore. They will now engage targets based on priority. I just don't know what the priority is. I have not tested yet. Crew proficiency will now impact the speed of AI decision-making. There is something that you can change in the editor, which is how advanced, or rather how experienced the crew is. And apparently that's going to make the AI potentially more or less dangerous. Because over here, with the aircraft carrier, I can say we have a trained crew, or seasoned, or veteran, or even ultra. The more ultra they become, I suppose the more dangerous the AI is going to become, because they can potentially make better decisions. They are also working on a lot of AI progress. And the core AI enhancements at the moment are that the AI commander is now able to classify ships and aircraft formations based on certain formation characteristics, such as a group of radar contacts on a similar heading and speed. If the enemy might see this formation from one of their airborne platforms and go, hey, you're all sailing at the same speed, you're all going in the same direction, and you're not using exactly a speed of 6 knots, the AI might actually figure out that could very well be the player. And they could start shooting you. So that's a nice upgrade. AI air bases will launch airborne early warning and control for air surveillance, and they will send up a combat air patrol flight of fighters and maintain/refresh them. They will also launch interceptors if an inbound strike is detected. It is going to be far more important now to use, for example, an F-14 with an air-to-air intercept and try to shoot down any airborne early warning platforms to allow your strike to get through, so that the airbase doesn't actually scramble out more fighters. The same can be said for a seed strike. If you can knock out the enemy's radars, either fire control or just detection radars or everything, preferably, that will make things a lot easier. That will make it so that you don't have to worry as much about your strike not getting through. Of course, you know, running seed operations is always a good thing, but most of the time, I typically don't necessarily run them if there aren't any high-value radar sites around, if there are no enemy air defenses that I need to knock out. If there are any other radars, those two will now get a preferential treatment. There's also the fact that air bases will launch attack aircraft with jammer support to attack any player, sea or land units detected. Airstrike composition will vary based on detected unit characteristics. I'm very interested to see if the AI is going to be able to be a lot more of a menace. I have not tested it yet. It's too early for me to test. But I will do some testing as I'm going to be running more missions. As for changes to the base AI game that are currently in progress or planned, which is the AI using reconnaissance as using available assets to search for the player. I'm surprised they don't actually do that yet. Expanding AI airstrike capability beyond bomb attacks only. At the moment, they only use bombs, so even if an airbase detects your carrier, I don't think they'll launch anti-ship strikes, because they don't know how, but that's going to be coming later. There's a morale-based system for AI behavior and reactions. I don't know what that's going to be looking like. Is that morale for your crew or for the AI? Improved anti-submarine warfare tactics when hunting player submarines. That is good. Submarines at the moment are desperately overpowered in the hands of a player. If you know what you're doing with a sub, you can just roll up an entire battle group. And the AI sometimes drops the occasional sonobuoy, but generally is just utterly inept at doing ASW. If this change actually goes through and they get it working, it's going to be a far, far more fun experience. Because it's not just going to be torpedoing everything you see and basically changing course every, well, half a day. No, you're going to have to actually plan your attack a lot more carefully. And the other thing they're working on is improving AI use of munitions with proper engagement envelopes for torpedoes and missiles. And much more. So there's a lot more that they're working on. I don't know what the timeline is. There is no update in that in the editor. For now, at least, we can play around with the new flight deck mechanics and see how we like them. I suppose you can give feedback on the topic that they have opened for this. So if you have suggestions to improve or you don't like mechanics, maybe you can let them know there. Link down below is the full patch log, because there's also a whole bunch of bug fixes. And please keep in mind, this is only for the beta branch. In case you are not familiar with how you get there, this is how. Here we go. In Steam, you go to, well, your library, or in this case, my download screen. You right-click C-Power, Properties, and you go to Betas, and you go to Stable Public Beta Branch. The other ones are the previous release versions, and if you go none, it's just the standard stable build, which is what I would prefer if you're running mods. But if you want to test around the beta and see how those new aircraft carrier mechanics and flight deck mechanics are going to work, this is how you do it. The game is then going to update and say, hey, I need to patch myself. Fine, go ahead, download, patch, and you should be done. So, that is the patch, at least the beta patch. I'm looking forward to seeing this thing on the live version. Let me know what your thoughts are below, and I shall see all these changes in action soon in new C-Power videos.